All right, everyone. Welcome. We are here live today. I am Damon Pistolka with Exit Your Way, and I've got Sam Timothy with me from One IMS Integrated Marketing Solutions. We are going to be talking today about taking your manufacturing business from production line to profitable exit. We're going to talk about navigating growth and value improvements for manufacturers to really be able to look at why it's important for you to think about sales and marketing and growing your business if you want to create a profitable exit. Sam, awesome to have you here today.
Yeah, Damon, I appreciate you having me on. I know you have a pretty strong audience and you've been in this manufacturing exit business for quite some time and you've seen a lot of successful exits too. So hopefully this is a really good value for your audience and learn some industry trends and what we're seeing actually working really well for some of our clients who are in the manufacturing space to increase their company value.
Yeah, I'm excited for that, Sam, because you guys have got some great results we're going to talk about later, and how it really created some exits for your clients
Mhm.
that because they had good sales and marketing, good marketing processes and those things. I do want to say, anyone listening today, drop a comment, and if you got some questions, let us know you're out there. Let us know where you're listening from, so we can we'll respond and get answers to your questions live while we're doing this. So, Sam, go ahead there and tell us a little bit about yourself, a little bit about One IMS.
Most certainly. So I'm Samuel Timothy, one of the co-founders of One IMS. We're an integrated marketing agency. We primarily focus on B2B organizations in the manufacturing and SaaS industry. What we do is we help our manufacturing clients acquire and retain customers and grow revenue predictably. So that's essentially what we do. So we have some system and process in place that we can plug and play and help those organizations to grow consistently. So
Awesome.
we've been at this for about 17 years now.
Yeah, cool. And I've seen some of the stuff you guys do, and it's really cool. It's really
Mhm.
cool. And for those of you don't know about me, Exit Your Way, we're helping manufacturing companies, e-commerce, healthcare, and construction companies build valuable businesses and help them exit. And really, it ties so much into what you guys are doing there, Sam, with growing a robust marketing and sales engine, because that is so important to the buyers of these businesses. Even if it's not important to the people that are getting ready to get out of the businesses, it's so important to the buyers that people in the business today really need to be focusing on it.
Most
So,
certainly.
real
Mhm.
quick, I want to say hey, hello to Deo. Great to see you, man. Keep spreading the inspiration. We got Victoria showing up. She's excited for the event. And John out of Utah. Good dude. Understands operations and leadership really well. So let's get rolling. We're going to have some free
Yeah.
resources at the end here for people too. So there's going to be some QR codes. Just hang around for those. But Sam, let's get going here.
Mhm.
All right. So this is one of the things that people, if they've seen me posting content, doing things, talking about the sale of a business, this is a horrible statistic for all of you that have a business, whether you're manufacturing or not. 80% of businesses on the market will never sell. 80%. So you can change that. But this is
Mhm.
why it's so important to understand the buyer's perspective. You got to have, like it says here, you can read the things, long term value growth. You got to have a strong leadership team. It might not be important to you, but it's going to be important to the next buyer, the next person in your business. They don't know the business, they haven't had 20 years of running a business like you have. Then you're going to have a diversified customer base. The same thing. You have taken that customer from a long time ago to today, your friends, you probably went on vacation, all this kind of stuff. That goes away when you leave. So you have to have a diversified customer base. So if any one leaves, it's not going to kill the business. Then you got to look at systematic sales and customer acquisition processes. We're going to talk about that a lot today because to you, growth may not be quite as critical as the buyer. Another thing Sam's going to talk about is brand reputation, marketing maturity. They want to see that you've got that robust marketing system and you're meeting or beating industry performance. This is something that a lot of people don't understand. They don't understand that if you're average in your industry, don't expect extraordinary or premium price for your business. So you got to understand what that is. You got to understand your industry outlook, and you got to understand the competitive landscape to really know where you're at in your industry. Now, this is another interesting fact. 90% of the business above $1 million, listed above $1 million, will sell for less than the asking price. And that is because we really have to make sure that it's valuable to the buyer. Even if you think it's worth $10 million, your buyer has to feel it's worth $10 million, because there's factors behind their decisions. They're going to be adding debt load to the business. You may not have any debt, but if they pay $10 million for your business, that business has to pay back that $10 million or however many $1 million for the debt. They need to grow the business to achieve their return on their investment. They have return on investment goals. Your business has to provide that. It has to pay back the debt plus pay a return. And they have to, these buyers are not going to be experts. This is one of the things that people get mixed up a lot. Buyers are usually not experts in the industry as much as they are good investors when you get above a certain size. Now, if I'm buying Sam's business and we're both in the same industry, it's a little different because we may both need no marketing or plumbing or whatever we're doing, right? But in a bigger business, when investors are buying your business, they're not that great at operating. They really want your business to be plug and play, so they don't have to think about production operations or equipment buying. I mean, that all has to be taken care of by you. It's got to be running itself. And this is the number one reason why businesses don't sell. There are unrealistic price expectations of the owners. This is because you need to get real data to understand what your business is worth far ahead of the time you want to sell it, because getting there and realizing at the end, you can't just price it for $10 million if it's worth $5 million. You just won't get any offers, right? Buyers are smart. They know what they can pay. They know what they can pay based on your size of business. There's all kinds of data they're going to use. It's available to you too. So get your expectations right, and then understand what your factors here that will increase the buyer interest, because the consistent value growth, the scalability, the leadership, solid brand and presence and reputation, and the scalable sales methods. I can't underestimate or underemphasize how important scalable sales method, good marketing, good sales process, good CRM, all that kind of thing. Everything down to, do you have a good Google listing? Does a Google My Business come up? Because buyers are looking at all that because they're concerned about this growth, the long-term future, how much it's going to be. It may be real cool for you after 20 years that it's annuity, it's just kicking out cash. To them, that's the starting point. They got to be able to go beyond. So Sam and the team, they got tons of great M&A. There's so many people that are writing about this. Don't believe me, go to those places, read all this stuff, get yourself educated on it.
Yeah, there's a lot of industry insights, right? This isn't something that Damon and I are just making up and making you want to believe this concept. This is actually being studied and reported by a lot of industry leaders. Like PwC has done some study about financial stability. When buyers looking at a company, they certainly want to know, is this company stable, and does their is the cash flow and their their outflow, right? Like, is it consistent, and can they predict that and see a pattern in it? And Forbes have done some study, and they've talked about the brand reputation, because they want to know, is the company has enough recognition in the marketplace? Are they just like a small little player, or do they have a recognizable following, right? And they have customers that are really following them and buying from them consistently. Bain & Company's study also talked about diversifying and loyal customer base. I can tell you a very real good example story. About 2.5 years ago, we received one prospect contacted us. The reason for them contacting was they are actually a rim molding company, reaction injection molding company. So they have done custom enclosures for medical devices, primarily medical devices. And one of their biggest customer, we all know about the Pareto principle, 80-20 principle, right? 20% of our customer make up 80% of our revenue, which most of us can understand that. But in their scenario, it was about 3% of their top line revenue, majority of that was coming from like 1 to 3 customers. So we're talking like 8-figure contracts from really sizable companies that they had as customer. And one of the customers was Philips. So when Philips decided to part ways after a multi-year contract, they just lost a majority of their business overnight. And they were trying to figure out, how do we replace that revenue? How do I sustain the growth? And how do we retain the employees? How do we make sure that the machines are continued operating and the production lines are not shut off? You're talking big business challenges. In that scenario, if that business wanted to sell, nobody would want to touch them because they just lost the revenue. And then and Damon talked about the diversity of customers, diversifying the customer base. If your portfolio of customers are a majority of your revenue is coming from a handful of customers, that's a big threat to the buyer, because they'll be afraid of buying that company because they don't know if 1 or 2 of those customers leaves, are they sticking around because of the owner's relationship or whatever the reasoning. They don't know that, and they will be very, very, very concerned. So it's extremely important that you have a diverse set of customer base coming from so many different sectors, that they can be confident in buying your company, knowing that they're going to be okay to, like Damon's point, being able to pay back that loan, see profitability, and have a long-term horizon on success. And then there's, go ahead, David.
No, go ahead. Keep going.
Yeah, and then obviously operational efficiency and marketing maturity. HubSpot has done some studies, and all of those are key metrics. And again, all of these things that we're talking about is important things to consider. If you're planning to exit, you have to have these things as an important part of your overarching strategy. And it's not something that you just wake up and say, I want to go sell my company tomorrow.
Yeah. And John, you covered some of these things. That's why I put John's comment up here. What are the red flags for buyers? What will make a deal be part of that 80% that never sell? And there's 2 main things, right? 2 main things. One is, you hit it hard, Sam, and it's right, is that when you have, say you got 4 customers and they're all 25% of your $10 million revenue business a year. Well, your buyers are going to look at it and say, if one of those customers leaves, totally goes away tomorrow, how much can I pay for the business? That's what they're going to look at. If you have 10 customers at the same business, they're going to say, okay, what does one customer leaving us in 10, or my biggest customer out of the 10, even if they're a little different, what does it look like? Because they don't know that everyone assumes that you're going to lose some customers, right? So the more customers you can have and get that down to a 5% for your biggest customer, or a 10%, but have the last have 150 customers or something like that, you're so much better off, because they're not going to be as worried about the customer concentration. There are some industries, though. I mean, you look at the aerospace industry that we're in out here in the Northwest or in the Southeast there, or the automotive, right? They have 1 or 2 big customers. Now there are certain industries where that's just the way it is, and buyers are more accustomed to that. But as a rule, across the board, it's going to make it harder for you to sell. The second red flag, John, is the team. And this is, if I'm the smartest guy and I'm the owner and I'm leaving after the sale, it's going to be hard for anybody to pay you real money for the business. Because again, they're not, maybe if you're selling to somebody else that's in the same business, you might get away with that a little bit. They're still going to discount the value. But if an outside buyer, if an investment firm or somebody's looking at it as a straight buy for the start of a platform, they aren't going to do it because the team's not strong enough. And so what they'll either do is they'll either discount the heck out of it. Some people have said 30 to 50% is that discount if the owner's too involved, and it just discounts it to a point that you say, well, why would I sell it? I can just keep it. And it's just, that's the kind of stuff that you really run into. And that's why price and understanding your team and all these factors together, how that works, elevates your company value and gets you to that point. Because like we said before, buyers need to grow value. They want that. They want to grow value without the current owners in place. They want the operations, the sales, marketing, everything to keep chunking right on. And they want their solid scalable sales. There you go. Can't say it. And you guys work with that and see the benefits of that all the time, Sam.
Exactly. I think we'll touch on a lot of those things in a little bit more details, but at the understanding, right? Like if you don't have a system and process in place,
Yeah.
nothing works, right?
Yeah.
So I'll share another story. So we often say we take companies from obscurity to market dominance. A lot of times these manufacturing companies live in obscurity. The common thing that I've heard after the last 17 plus years of working with manufacturing companies, you sit across the table from a CEO, he says, "We are the best kept secret in our industry. If only more people knew we existed, we will be killing it," right? Like we will be the business leader. What they're actually saying is, no one has heard of us. We have great
Mhm.
product. We have great promise. We keep our word. We do a great job. All of those things are really, really true. And I feel for these guys, right? Because I really do feel for them, but they just haven't invested into improving their overall visibility, right? And getting their word out. And the fact of the matter is, right, these people spend so much energy and enthusiasm on the back office perfection. Like they would go spend money on creating
Yeah.
efficient process for operation efficiency, maybe even installing robots and better quality assurance process and everything else that they will do, but they won't spend that same energy in the front office side. Well, how do we know? Are we tracking the right metrics? Do we have a process to optimize our sales and our marketing efforts? Do we know the number of leads that come in? They know exactly the number of unit comes out on the other end of the machine. They know how many parts they can produce in an hour. They know
Yep.
all of that, but they don't have that same sort of a perception of the front office. Do I have every morning when I come in a certain number of leads coming through the door that I know a percentage of them are qualified to buy for me? I know a certain percentage of them are going to turn into business in the next 30 to 60 to 90 days. I know what the average order value is going to be like. I know what the profitability is going to be like. So I can almost see, right, as a machine running on the front office just as much as I do have it in the back office, right? So to give you a story, right, this is an industrial flooring company that came to us several years back. When they came to us, they had the best product, right? Most of these manufacturing companies are really good at what they do. They have good products. But the fact of the matter is they relied heavily on their contractors that are doing the flooring business to come to them with a project and buy the material to actually sell their products. So they were relying
Mhm.
on these technically independent sales reps to drive the revenue, and they had literally no control on their sales. So they said this is not a sustainable business model because contractors are not the best when it comes to selling. They go for the cheapest product supplier and they're going to go try to cut corners and try to win a
Mhm.
deal. And they're not thinking about this particular supplier who has better materials, but they're just not preferring them because they were more expensive and they were losing deals. So our clients said that there's got to be a better way. And they came to us and said, we don't know what the solution is. We need a strategy to approach this problem. Our recommendation was, well, here's the challenge. You are relying on the leads to be generated by your contractor and coming to you with a project. You need to change this entirely. We need to be the one driving the lead gen side of it. We need to funnel the leads to our contractors. We need to monitor the success rate of those contractors and see who is good at selling, who's good at what type of projects. And depending on the size and scale of those projects, feed the leads to the right contractor who's capable of doing. And when they don't buy from you, you can keep them accountable and say, hey, Mr. Contractor, I gave you a 4 million square foot a warehouse project 3 months ago. You did not close the deal. What happened? No, we did do the job. Oh, where did you go? Oh, I went to a cheaper supplier. Now all of a sudden you're controlling that narrative and you are in charge of the sales process. So this manufacturer, we were able to completely change the game. We started optimizing and creating content,
Nice.
promoting them. They became the industry leader when you looked for anything to do with the industrial flooring solutions and every possible scenario and questions that you can ask.
Yeah.
Look what happened. A major player in the marketplace, which is a very, very recognizable public company, took note of this small little manufacturing supplier in the Chicagoland area and said, well, these guys know something that they're doing that we're not doing. We're a big giant, but we haven't figured out how to do this. Maybe we just buy them out and see what they're doing. So that's essentially what happened, right? So now you have a public company who has the money to come and give you value that you didn't even expect because you had a system and a process in place that was working like a clockwork even when the owner was sleeping. So
Yeah.
that is the beauty of having a system to build a predictable way to drive new customers.
And you bring up a couple good points here, Sam, because you can run your business forever based on gut feel, right?
Mhm.
You can have salespeople have been doing it all the time. You know about how much money comes in based on the history, all that. That buyer has none of that. So what you're talking about is, and I was writing notes here while you're doing it, you can see the lead flow, how many
Mhm.
leads, you can see the backlog you've got that's either in a quoting process or something like that, and you're going to see your win rate. These
Mhm.
are things that can help predict future revenue. These are leading
Mhm.
indicators, which you don't have if you don't put these things in place. And it's key for the buyers to be able to see that. It is a difference between what John says, being one of the 80% that don't sell or don't get enough of a high enough offer to sell, or
Mhm.
being one of them that gets acquired like your client did.
Yeah, and if you're a buyer looking at a couple of different companies to buy and you see one that actually has a lot of these things in place, it's an easy choice. They will be like, "Oh,
Yes.
I'm willing to pay this company a little bit more because I know what I'm getting because I'm not buying into some surprise that I'm not, I'll be surprised after I find out." Right? Like,
Yeah.
so that's the real truth about it, right? So the front end imperative, right? Like just as much energy you're putting into the back office to perfect your product operation quality and your IP, you need to be investing the same amount of energy and resource in the front end as well, right? So that's the key, right? Automate, optimize, and measure all of those things that you're doing in the front, just as you do in the back office. So a couple of big interesting stats, and then throughout it, you will see that we're using some of these recognizable numbers because, again, these are not our feelings; these are all supported by industry research and
Mhm.
reports. This is actually a real truth. 67% of salespeople's time is spent on non-selling activities, non-revenue
Yep.
generating activities. They are distracted with so many things. They're like, "Oh, I'm going to go create a list. I'm going to go look at the company. I'm going to go look at their news and what they are mentioned about them in the company." They do a lot of busy work, but it doesn't produce revenue. And a lot of times in the manufacturing space, what we've come to realize is these are sales engineers. They were previously they were engineers, or they're still engineers by trade. These guys are actually technically billable hours. And I've seen them at trade shows standing there for 3 days, $250 billable person, and multiple of those guys standing in a trade show booth collecting business cards. When in fact, we should figure out, how do I set these people up with a qualified conversation with prospects who they know are going to be buying, as opposed to somebody who's standing by or walking by to just grab a freebie, or they're prospecting into accounts, wasting quality time of these salespeople.
Yeah, and with good marketing, that's the one you bring up something that I've seen, and I'm sure you have. The advent of simple and good marketing now changes trade shows because you can set up conversations prior to the trade show, letting people know you're going to be there, getting people, people that have interacted with you over the years. You can make sure to know what booth you're at, what we'll be talking about. Come and talk to us if you've got questions about this, to help educate and inform those people, to move them farther down the funnel, to get to turn them into, if they are going to be good customers.
Exactly. And I think if you're doing that, now you're actually having productive conversation at the trade
Yes.
shows. And I have a lot more I can talk about, pre-show and post-show strategies. A lot of times what they end up happening is you spend $40,000 to be at a show, you collect 400 business cards, you do the math, 400 divided by 40, right? It's very expensive, each of those business cards that you picked up. Most of the
Yeah.
companies are not even doing the math on it. And then once you get back, now it sits on somebody's desk and you're manually adding them and trying to figure out what to follow up, and you have no system in place to automate any of those things, so you can have efficiency and gain more output by leveraging technology and automation, and give your reps more talk time on phone in front of prospects. That's essentially what you want to do. So there's a lot of things we've helped implement for that on that front. But before you can understand a lot of the things I'm going to be talking specifically, you need to understand the whole demand pyramid. So I
Yes.
think when you take your customer, total addressable market, right? Any given industry, we talked about diversifying your customer portfolio. So regardless of the industry, you take your total addressable market of your company and whatever the product or service that you offer. Let's just say, for example, there's 100 companies are there. Only about 1 to 3 of those are in an active buying cycle. That means they either had gone through some sort of a bad experience with their current supplier, or there's some sort of a change in their product or service offering that they need another supplier. Some of those things are affecting their need to actually go to market and find a supplier, right? That means about a 1 to 3%. The rest of the 97% of the people are not in an active buying cycle. So we talked about 67% of the salespeople's time are not spent on revenue generating activities. When we are doing prospecting, we're spending 67% of the unproductive time to go after the 97% of the people that are not in an active buying cycle. This is why most people say
Mhm.
sales is a numbers game. When you just hit the right person at the right time and with the right message, they're just going to buy. No, you're wasting a lot of time to try to find out who's actually in the market to buy. You just so happen to be lucky to find the 3% that are actively buying. So what you want to be figuring out is, instead of doing the one-to-one strategy, you have to figure out how to do the one-to-many strategy. How do I get in front of the 97% of the people that might be able to buy my product in the future, but I don't want to waste my sales engineers time wasting prospecting into those accounts. I want to figure out how do I market to those accounts so that they know that I exist, that I win those accounts when it's time for them to buy and they become buyer ready. So
Yep.
that is an important concept of a demand pyramid that you need to understand. So you are valuing your salespeople's time and you're leveraging technology and marketing to reach people that are your ideal customers in the future, right? So when you think about growth, we make it extremely simple for our customers to understand. I mean, I know you can make it super complicated understanding, what goes into growing a company, but we call growth formula framework. It's acquisition plus retention equals growth. If you can figure out how to acquire customers consistently, and if you can figure out how to retain and grow those accounts over time, you are going to grow, right? What goes into it, there's definitely a couple of levers that you need to pull. But at the end of the day, you need to be doing both of these things consistently. If not, you're not growing. What I mean by that is a lot of manufacturing companies over my years of being in this industry are really good at retaining customers. They do a great job of servicing them. They do a great job of production. They promise they promise and deliver on time. They try to keep the price under control. They do a lot of those things. So they retain customers. So that's why many of these manufacturing companies are sustained over these years. And a lot of them, had struggled when a lot of production went overseas because they lost some of those customers because they couldn't compete on price. But if many of them haven't figured out how to consistently acquire new customers, so that is where, either they're doing some sort of outdated strategy, which is, living off of a Rolodex and flipping and hoping and calling somebody and hoping they show up and, pick up the phone and talk to them, or hoping to meet somebody at a trade show or whatnot, right? If you don't have a system in place to consistently drive new business, and you're not growing, right? And if you're losing clients at the same rate as you're acquiring customer, you're not growing. So all of these has to be in equilibrium to actually grow, right? So when you think about the growth formula framework, I will get into some of the specifics of it. You have, when we talk about the demand pyramid, there's always active buyers. About 1 to 3% of your total addressable market is an in-market stage. They're in the active buying cycle. We need to make sure that we're able to capture those people, right, as they are looking for you. And then the other side of the equation is like those people who they should be buying from you, but they're not actively looking. We need to make sure that we're in front of those people through every possible channel that we can get in front of them. And I will get into some specific in a few minutes. And then
John's got a question here. He's got what's an efficiency metric? That's a good, maybe you're going to hit that later, but I think that's a good question too.
Yeah. So what is an efficiency metric for if they're doing the sales, right?
Yeah.
So I think it looks at some of the, there's obviously averages across the board. Industry average, and I think I have a stat later on. Industry average conversion on our website is about 2%, right? And then I have some stats about the conversion rate from a lead to a meeting, depending on whether or not it converted on a top of funnel, which means like they were consuming some sort of a content and converted into, they're not buyer ready. That conversion rate from that to a meeting is going to be a lot lower than somebody who came through a form fill that says request a quote or talk to a sales engineer.
Yep.
That's going to be a higher from a form to a meeting, right? So the conversion rates do vary. It's based on industry, based on the kind of persona that you're going after. But you do want to measure, and you want to get some baseline metric for your company. What is the current metrics, and then start tracking it and see what is what's the opportunity, right? What is the potential, and then optimize for improving upon it, right? So if you're not tracking the conversion from a lead filling out a form to a meeting, you don't know whether or not you can optimize it. I think I even have a stat about what you don't measure, you cannot optimize. Yeah. So there's some industry averages, but it actually does kind of depend on it, right? So it goes back to the winning strategy. So how do you execute this strategy, right? The first and foremost, you have to have the tools and technology to track and measure. If you don't have anything, I am surprised, and I'm still amazed how some of these manufacturing companies are in the tens of millions of dollars in revenue and still are using Excel spreadsheets to track their contacts, track their codes and everything else. I am super surprised. And we're living in 21st century, and these companies still don't have an actual CRM system that actually can be leveraged to track their contacts and customers. It's a shame. And they are relying on, a handful of salespeople that worked with them for 15, 20 years. Many of them are in a retirement age. And when they leave, they're taking their relationship they're taking their history with all that context that you had over the years with that customer is gone. That is intellectual property of that company that you just lost. So if you don't have technology to synchronize all the emails, track all the conversation history, bring all their contacts that we've been dealing with, all the prior estimates and quotes we've given, any possible replies that we've gotten, objections, even the sales conversations our team is having with that customer. All of that information can be captured today with technology. And you don't even have to have them take notes. It's actually going to record, transcribe, put it in your CRM.
Yep.
There's technology available for that. The next priority is capturing that existing demand, and I'll go into details in a little bit, and creating brand awareness and demand, managing and nurturing leads, and ultimately winning on brand, which means people are going to know your name and know that you're known for something and will be coming to you for whatever that product or service. So
Yep.
tools and technology, right? The goal is the real-time access to performance and data. All right. So you have control. So same way you are monitoring your machines, there are so many SaaS companies out there right now that can actually have some sort of an IoT device attached to your machine that tracks your vibration, that tracks your output, that tracks how long the machine was down, and the time between the shifts. Any and all sort of activities are being tracked on these machines so they can actually optimize for production output. The same way you need to have very good handle on every possible activity that's happening in your organization on the sales and marketing side. So some of the things and how to measure, right? So number one thing should be, you should have real-time data on your website traffic. You need to know who's coming, how many of them are coming, where did they come from, what channel did they choose to come to your site, and where are those traffic coming from is an important metric that you should have real-time data of, because these are like you're having an actual physical store. People are walking into your door and you're not even knowing that they're there, right? So you have to have technology that enabling you to track all those activities and reporting to in real time, right? If you're a retail business and you have friend door and you have those chime that rings as somebody opens the door because you want to know if somebody walked in, same way you should be in the know as to who's coming in, right? You need to be able to track that. The second thing would be leads, right? You want to know the contact forms that are getting filled, the number of inbound calls that are coming in, chat submissions if you're leveraging that, and conversion rate in chats. And I know we've had manufacturing clients that have objected to us in leveraging chats and say, oh, our customers are engineers and design engineers. They are not going to sit there and chat. And we've seen time and time again how engineers don't have any time and they don't want to call in. They just want to ask a question. Hey, would this product SKU work? And we are trying to do this temperature. We want to know if you have this product can meet this temperature tolerance. They don't want to spend an hour getting on a phone call talking to somebody. They want to get an answer to something very quickly, and they are using chat platform and things like that. But you should be tracking leads as they're coming through the website and converting, right? You need to have real-time data on it. Last but not least, it's actually the sales metric, right? The number of meetings that are generated, number of opportunities created, the number of closed deals, the revenue, the win rate. All of those are key metrics of your company that you should be tracking, that you have real-time data, so that it's not a surprise at the end of the quarter. Shoot, we just missed our quarterly target, or we missed our monthly target. Because if you have leading indicators telling you what's actually happening, the lag measures will fall into place because you can optimize early on where you're falling behind, right? So knowing and what to measure and how to measure is an important part of making sure that your company value is retained and grown. So going back to now how to capture that demand, right? So when you think about the demand pyramid, about 1 to 3% of the people are in market stage, they're actively buying. So the number one thing we need to do if you think about the sales funnel is, how do we make sure that the active buyers are finding us, right? Fix the bottom of the funnel, right? Get rid of the leakage of people not finding us. What that means is, if people are online looking for your products or services, you need to get found for it, right? It is no longer an option. It is an imperative that if they're not finding you, you're not discoverable. You're not found. And they should be able to find your company. And a lot of times we've seen manufacturing companies who are very creative, ABC this and whatever else. Back in the day when the yellow pages were relevant, it was okay. But today, if your brand name is not something that people can look and find you, you're just not discoverable, right? So fixing that problem is the number one, right? So capture the demand from the intent channel, which means somebody who is actively looking to find a solution, they're going to be Google searching that. They're going to go to a search engine and to look for it. So you have to make sure that you're able to get found by optimizing your website and providing relevant content and making sure that you can get found. And the concept is called search engine optimization. And one of the other means that you can do that is actually paying to be found, which is pay per click, right? So essentially some of the terms that you want to be showing up for, you can tell Google, hey, I want to show up for those terms. pay for those clicks and you can actually get found, right? And then focusing on that 1 to 3% of the active buyers and making sure that we're getting found. So if you take care of this one third of this initiative, right, you're taking care of a good amount of what you can do to acquire active customers, right? You're actually doing a great job in acquiring customers, just focusing on this one element, which is capturing that existing demand. So there are some things that goes into it, right? So there are some stats, right? 42% of sales reps spend more time selling when provided with qualified sales leads. So if we're doing capturing demand, looking at ways to generate leads for our customers, for our sales reps, from active buyers, you're handing them warm conversations. So they're more likely to close those deals because they were active buyers and in market buying stage. And because of that, there's urgency and the time to sale, right? The velocity of that sales is going to be a lot faster and you're going to win a lot more because if you think about it, right, a lot of times manufacturers go spend money on directories like ThomasNet. ThomasNet is nothing but a long list of contractors. When you're just found on ThomasNet, usually what ends up happening is you have 20 different suppliers for injection molding and they look at all of them and they contact every one of them. You're just one of those 20 people that they contacted. Now it's a price war trying to win over a couple of pennies as opposed to really winning on value. Somebody coming to your website, converting into an inquiry and talking to your sales engineers and becoming a customer is actually a lot better and easier for you to win that account because you're not competing with all the other alternative cheaper options. You are the only person that most likely they're talking, right? Unless they are required to actually get 1 or 2 bits. So you want to make sure that your salespeople who are sales engineers that are expensive resources in your company are being maximized by feeding them with sales conversations, right? Before you can execute that, you need to really know your audience. A lot of times when we are talking to manufacturing companies, they really don't know how to name who their customers are. They have some fussy idea about who they are, but they cannot name who their ideal customer profile is, who their buyer persona is, where do they congregate for information, how do they consume information, what motivates them to buy. All of that information is something that you need to know real well so you could market your business better, right? And then you need to know their journey. The problem today is most of us is expecting a linear journey that they're going from like, oh, they came to our website and buy, and then they just became a customer. Unfortunately, that's not the case. They're a design engineer trying to design a new product, and they go to Google and they're going to say, oh, injection molding versus, thermoforming, or they're searching for, electroplating versus passivation or, electroplating, right? So they're searching difference and alternatives and all of those things, and they're learning about those concepts to see which option of a specific application is best for their product that they're trying to manufacture. And when that design engineer is researching, if you're not the one educating them and they're not discovering your business and your knowledge and your expertise, they're not hearing from you. And they're going and finding that from your competitors. So you are providing information and insights even before they become a customer. And I'll tell you one example of it. So we had a company, it's in the electroplating and electropolishing business. They were having a lot of hard time trying to get conversions because what happened was they had one call to action on their website, which was request a quote. And that request a quote also included a CAD drawing had to be ready and be able to submit to get an estimate on that project. What we saw that they were getting a ton of traffic, but the conversion wasn't there. We decided to implement a new sort of an offer. We just said sample request, basically a sample polishing, right? Like request a sample polish parts and say, submit your parts, we'll polish it for free. And what ended up happening was there were people coming in and say, oh, we have a part we want to get polished. They didn't even know they can actually just get one part polished. By submitting that form to get a sample part polished, all of a sudden they were generating leads way before they were able to do actual production. And then these engineers were starting to do prototyping, get parts polished early on. And then they were like, oh, wow, you guys did a great job. We're going to actually put you into the blueprint and put you as a supplier. When we're ready to actually do the production, we're going to give it to you because you guys already done that. We just jumped 7 steps and already got this, this design engineer to commit to you to buy from you. And they haven't even looked at other alternative options. So what you need to understand is the purchase journey is not linear. People are doing a lot of research. And if you're not the one supplying information and knowledge, they're going elsewhere and you're actually losing opportunities, right? So understanding that purchase journey, you also need to know the queries. They are asking Google questions. They have troubles. They have, they're asking how-tos. You need to be the one providing answers. And I've talked about comparison, right? Passivation versus electroplating or electropolishing, or, different sort of, material choices for temperature control. You are the engineers creating and manufacturing products, and the people that are buying from you have a lot of questions. They're not the experts in the space. You know what conducts better energy and what kind of heat treatment might be available for your product or service or whatnot, right? So all of those are questions that you have as expertise, and oftentimes most manufacturers think that's the industry secret. We're going to just keep it whole, keep it to ourselves. But if you're providing that information ahead of time, people are going to find you as the go-to source, and they're going to come and choose you over alternatives. So
Yep.
you need to know the queries that they're asking, and you need to be the ones answering those queries. And you're providing insights and information that actually will help them choose you over alternatives, right? And then, the one of the things that you need to understand is 92% of the people that come to your website do not convert, right? Which means a majority of those people come and consume and then they leave. So if you don't know how to convert those people into an inquiry, you're losing valuable opportunities. And if you don't track this, you don't even know about this, right? You need to be able to track and know who's coming, where did they come from, and whether or not they converted, right?
Yeah,
So
that's a huge thing. It's a huge thing to know what's happening with the people that are visiting.
exactly. So you have to have system and process in place and experimenting with those things. And I've told you the story of that company that was in the electroplating business. We were tracking conversion and we noticed that there were a ton of traffic coming to the site, but it wasn't converting because we were asking them to submit a quote request, and we were asking them to have a CAD drawing ready. All of those things are not always going to be ready for someone to submit a form, and they're not even ready to ask for a quote yet. A lot of times they want to see which process is better. They want to see if this company can actually do a sample, whatever that might be the case, right? So you need to know how to convert those people that are coming. So you have to be testing different call to action, testing different type of forms, and testing different sort of mechanism for converting, right? Because in the past, yeah, we were more likely to pick up a phone and call somebody. Today, we rather just get our answers through a chat, rather we
Mm-hmm.
just submit a form or consume some blog content and learn on our own, right? There's a lot more insights about this. Also, there's been Serious Decision has done some studies about what percentage of the sales process is actually done before they ever even reaches the buyer. I think is well over 67 now. So all of those are things that you need to figure out and know. So when people are coming to your website, you have system and process in place to convert those people and then turn them into inquiries, right? So
Mm-hmm.
I've just kind of touched on capturing the existing demand, right? That's just all of those things are just practical ways that you can capture that existing demand. So you can set your salespeople with a qualified sales conversation. And I have some more information. I'll try to go as quick as possible, and hopefully you are grabbing some of those insight. The second part of that acquisition side of the equation is building strong brand awareness, right? Which means people have to know you exist, and you also need to build solution awareness. A lot of times people don't even know how to articulate the problem that they're having in their business. So you have to be the one putting the words in their mouth by teaching them their problem so they understand their own business problems that they're trying to solve, right? So if they had product failure and they had some sort of a tolerance issue with some sort of a product that they manufactured, and then they are going and researching what is a better alternative to do this, you should be the one teaching them that. So you're setting the buying criteria. So 70% of the people conduct their research online before making any B2B purchase
Mm-hmm.
decision. It's a very, very large sum of people. So if that's the case, how do you build awareness for your brand? How do you build awareness for your solutions, right? You have to be the subject matter expert. And prior to this call, me and Damon were just talking about when we go to industry shows and when you have those talk sessions, and you go to those conferences, and you sit in those on those breakout sessions, you see subject matter experts speaking, and then right after their session is over, there's 15, 20 people standing in line to talk to those people. That's in the real world happens in the conference room, in a trade show. But you need to be doing that digitally, right? If you looked at Damon himself, he has over 70,000 people follow him on LinkedIn. When he does a live event, people are showing up to listen to him talk. He's able to provide so much insights and content. He is known in the space as the exit your way specialist. If you're trying to get your company to increase value and sell it, he is known in that space because he created a name for himself, right? The same thing is possible as a manufacturing company. If it's not the owner, you need to appoint somebody who could be that point person, who could be providing insights and knowledge and expertise to your end customers, right? And there's so many ways of doing it. You can have podcasts, you can have
Yep.
webinars, you can create ebooks and guides, you can do interviews with engineers. So if you have target customers, you can actually reach out to engineers that are in your prospective companies, do interviews with them, and ask about the industry trends, the different things that they're experimenting with, the challenges that they're having with their production and their products, and what are some of the things that they're working on. You could actually take that insights and actually be leveraging into your own marketing and attract other design engineers to listen to that podcast. All of a sudden, you're creating a community that actually trust your
Yep.
judgment and your content and going to continue to follow you, right? So creating awareness for your brand also means creating a ton of content around the product and services that you offer and the industry solutions that you provide. Ultimately, that grows your industry recognition. Last
Yeah.
but not least, in managing and nurturing leads. And I think one of the things that most manufacturing companies, when we work with them, they don't understand their contact database is their gold mine. And a lot of times they just have a Microsoft Outlook and they say, oh, all our contacts are in Outlook, or oh yeah, it's everything in our emails. But that's not how you would mine gold. If you knew that there's gold to be mined, you will know how to properly store it, and you know how to properly segment it, and you know how to properly nurture that, right? So essentially, managing and nurturing customers is an important part of it, right? So I'll give you some practical examples of that as well, right? 79% of the marketing leads never convert to sales. So we talked about 2%, right? Only about 2% of the people that come to your website convert, and 98% do not even convert. So from that 2% convert, 79% of the leads never convert to sale, which means we dropped them somewhere along the way. Either they submitted a form, we never followed through. They submitted a form, talked to the salespeople, we just never provided what they were looking for. Or I've seen even worse, where we spend engineers' time going through feasibility study analysis, work on creating a quote and send it to them. And then we do a poor job of follow through and following up with these people. And then we find out, oh, shoot, they went with somebody else. We waited 3 months to find that out because we didn't follow. Oh, sorry, I totally forgot about your quote. We've seen that happening because if you haven't done a good job of nurturing those leads, staying top of mind with them and making sure that they know that you have a better alternative option to offer them what they're getting in the marketplace, you're going to lose, right? So nurturing leads is an important part of it. And 20% of the leads, right? Nurtured leads produce on average 20% increase in sales opportunities versus non-nurtured. So if you are not even nurturing contacts that are coming to your place, you have to be leveraging technology and quality content to stay top of mind with your prospective customers so that they're not forgetting about you, and they, when in market to buy, you are the first person that they're thinking about. So you're going to increase your win rate. You're going to increase your customer overall success of your sales team. All of that is going to improve, right? So how do you do that? You have to have system and process in place to store your data. So you have to have technology that allows you to do it. So centralizing the data and how it's getting stored, and have some process in place of how you capture it and store it. And then the other half of it is segmenting them, right? A lot of times what we've learned is a lot of our customers are not sure on how to segment the contacts. So if you're, let's say if you're a company that does, kind of similar to the story I shared about electric polishing, maybe some of your customers might be in the medical device space, and some of your customers might be in some other, sensitive products. You have to be able to know by industry type, the persona of that company, the company size, the product that they're interested in, the location of where they are from. And all of those things are things that you can know about that company and segment them into the right buckets, so you can provide very timely and informative and educational content that are relevant to them. If they're an automotive manufacturer, you don't want to send them something about medical device because you're making a fool out of yourself, right? But if they're a medical device manufacturer, and if you're sending them a case study, an example of how you solved a specific problem for another medical device manufacturing company, they're going to trust you, and they will be more likely to buy from you because they know that you have expertise and have prior experience doing that similar project or solving that problem. So segmenting them is an important part of it. We talked about how expensive your sales resources are. So you need to figure out, how do you prioritize the leads, score those people, pass them on to the salespeople based on the engagement metrics, and not hand them over every conversation, every lead that comes through that may or may not be ready to buy, right? So you have to have system and process and technology in place that allows you to do it. And the beautiful thing about it is there's so many technology solutions available that helps you do this much more efficiently and at scale.
Yeah.
And you are now able to say, hey, show me all the all my clients that are in the automotive space that has inquired about this particular product offering in the last 90 days. And then I can say, hey, I want a re-engagement campaign to go after and see if I can get those people to have another conversation with my reps. So if that is not easily accessible, you're not going to be able to execute on that.
When you can give your reps and the people, your salespeople, have so much data to work with, right? That's the thing that the good systems allow. You have all these leads. And I'll bet a lot of the people listening right now, they're in manufacturing, are thinking, well, we don't even follow up on all the leads we get.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, that simple a thing is virtually eliminated by these systems, because you will be touching them somehow. Or if you go, okay, do our salespeople effectively go out and even contact our best customers? right? Our best customers, are they talking to them consistently? Do you know if they are? I'll bet the answer is you don't, at least you don't know, at the
Mhm.
very least. And I'll bet they aren't in a lot of
Mhm.
cases because we just pass over them. And while those customers could be a source of growth because it's easier to sell them more if they need more services that they may not even know about. I mean,
Mhm.
there's these four different buckets of growth that we got to think about, and these systems address it. So,
Yeah. Yeah, and some bigger companies, what we've also seen is when you're when you're supplying to a big organization, they have multiple divisions. So you might be selling into just one division. If you have a system in place to say, well, I would like to get introduction from this division's procurement
yep,
manager to the other division's procurement manager. Hey, we've been doing a great job for you guys in supplying this material. Would you be able to make an intro to somebody else? If you have a system in place and say, predictably, every 90 days, we're going to go look at our existing customers and see, can we get introduced to their internal team members so that they know we are a supplier that is approved to do business with that company, right? So there's so many ways to do it. And go back to what you just mentioned, Damon, the 50% reduction in customer acquisition costs when sales and marketing is aligned, right? So that means like if you're doing a great job of aligning these efforts, you're actually lowering your cost of acquisition. What that means
yeah,
is a lot of times manufacturing companies, surprisingly, they never do the math of what it costs to acquire a customer. Amount of hours that engineers and procurement people, all of those people work together to go give estimates and do all this, feasibility study. And sometimes they even do a little bit of R&D for free before
yep,
they actually take on projects. That is cost of doing business. That's cost of actually acquisition. If you're not tracking all of that to reduce your overall cost of acquisition, it's eating into your top line and to your bottom line, right? So
yep,
that's all part of the effort, and you want to be able to do that. So I have one last story to tell. This was actually a packaging company. So they were pretty well established in this space, but what was happening was most of their customers were just basically existing brands that they had a long-term relationship with, and they were starting to see some of their salespeople retiring. So when they came to us, they
yeah,
said, "Well, our customers are big brands. They don't necessarily go online to look for packaging solution providers. This doesn't happen in our space, but we're curious to check. We would like to know, could you guys help us do it?" And then what come to find out is most of the traffic that was coming to their website was their location, address, location, phone number, and their brand name, which means only what they've known for is the truck drivers that are coming in to pick up their
yep,
warehouse and whatever. They
yep,
were just looking for the address. They were not showing for anything. So we decided to just do some investigative research and build a strategy around how do we go in front of their target customers. What we come to realize is that the best way to reach those people is through big brand agencies that actually do packaging designs, and to target those people and let them know that our client exists because they talk to the customer, the end customer, way before the product ever gets designed and go to market.
mm-hmm,
By marketing to the agencies on record that actually does the actual packaging design, our client was to create a channel that they never knew even existed. And all of a sudden they were creating content and educating their end not the end customer, the actual pass through, right? Like their channel, almost a channel consultant, right? They were actually educating them like, hey, packaging trends, how to design your packaging for better eye catching, whatever. And you're now
mm-hmm,
getting in front of the brand leaders, and they're actually trying to investigate and do a better understanding of how to package product better, and also like how to create green packaging, all sorts of content. All of a sudden now they've started to generate leads from companies that they never thought would possibly come from internet. And we were able to change that. And ultimately we were able to track all of those things across the whole thing so that we knew the content that produced the best engagement,
mm-hmm,
content that converted the most amount of engaged leads. And then some of the challenges they also had was they were very high value, high ticket products. So they had to actually measure, they had to disqualify a lot of leads in the early days. So we had to have in systematically put things in place that says, okay, as soon as they come in, they have to go through a certain process that automatically qualifies or disqualifies those people based on their product types or industry or insights and whatnot. So basically another story of success where we helped another packaging company who thought that it's not possible to win really big brands and big packaging deals through digital channels. And we were able to kind of to prove that that is still possible. So these are some real world stories. And certainly the key takeaway here is just as much energy you're putting into the back office for optimizing production and optimizing for quality, you need to be putting the same amount of energy into the front office to know who's your ideal customers, where are they congregating, how do we get them in front of in front of us, and how do we get them to convert? How do we monitor and track all of this and make sure that we're optimizing every touch point that we're having with the customers? So ultimately, that way we can grow and have an incredibly valuable company that a buyer is willing to pay what it's worth and more when you're ready to exit.
Yeah, it's key, and I'm glad you went through this, Sam, because these kind of things are critical to a buyer coming in, right? They want to know that that revenue keeps coming because they've got this debt load that they've got to take care of, and it's not like you today. You may not care about it, you may not need it, you may not want it. There's all kinds of stuff, right? But that
Mhm.
buyer has that bill that they have to pay to that bank and that return that they've got to make every month. And they are going to be wondering, they need to know where their next sales are coming from. And it can't
Mhm.
be because I've got 2 or 3 star salespeople that look like me age wise, and that's just not going to work, because they're like,
Mhm.
those people are going to be gone, and we're still going to have to figure out how this thing keeps growing. And what you're talking about is a sustainable and scalable model that'll help them generate long-term sales.
Yeah, and obviously, hopefully, there's some key takeaways here, and we promised you guys a few free resources. So that's essentially what we want to just kind of, offer to you. There's a free checklist, is a self-assessment you can do as a manufacturing company. It's called a growth readiness checklist. You either scan this QR code or go to that link that you'll be able to access that free resource. And then Damon also generously made available a free resource that he has as well. So
Yeah.
if Damon wants to kind of explain what they get
They
from
can
those
hit
resources.
our FAQ page. We got a lot of questions on there if you're thinking about selling your business, and you can download our business sale guide that gives you prep tips, gives you a lot of other things. And there's also, you'll find it in our resource center there. And there's so many other things for around preparing and getting ready to sell a business. So,
Most certainly.
yeah.
Yeah. And then both of our contact information is right here. If you
Yep.
can't scan that QR code, it should take you to a place. And I'll leave this QR code here for both resources that are easily accessible here by scanning that QR code.
Yeah.
Hopefully, you all walked away with some really insightful information that you can take some actions on. And again, our goal is not to scare you, but actually be inform you so you can take the appropriate step to stop building value for your organization and thinking about proactive ways of investing into your company. And all of these things we're talking about is investing into your company or building equity into your organization by building a
Yes.
strong brand. Your brand actually has equity. Your website is an asset. It's not just a pretty thing. It's an actual asset that you are selling. And I mean, it's interesting, Damon, you know how many web properties are out there that's been sold? That's just a website. People
Yeah.
buy websites. And I think even ThomasNet was recently acquired, if I'm not mistaken. Wasn't there recently
I
ThomasNet
believe
was
so.
actually
Yeah.
bought?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yep.
So like what it is just a listing site, right? Like it has value because people go to that website and it's got traffic. And so eyeballs is what people paying for.
Yeah.
So there's
They are.
definitely a lot of value.
And these systems that may not be important to you are key to the next people, and adopting that buyer's perspective and understanding what is important to your buyer, the next owner of your business, is truly what will get your business sold. You can flip that 80% not selling to 90% plus chance of sell, or like the example you gave, Sam, where just they did a different take on their marketing. Instead of using the contractors, they were going out to the end customers and doing it that way.
Mhm.
And then your last example with the packaging company is a great example as well. Go to the people where you can be specified in the project, and go right to the source.
Mhm.
So there's so many different ways that can help your company today and tomorrow. So if anyone's got any questions, drop them now. We got just a minute or two to answer questions. And just want to thank everyone for being here while we're waiting for any questions. And you can always reach out to Sam on LinkedIn. Or what's your website again, Sam? You got a
Just
contact
one,
information up here. They
yeah,
can find
just
us
one
there.
I yeah, just one ims.com. ONEIMS.com.
Yep.
Mhm.
And we're at exityourway.com, and we're here, and we are just about at time. If we don't get any questions right here, we're going to shut it down, but appreciate everyone for listening. And Sam, this was great. I mean, your examples
Appreciate you.
were so relevant.
Awesome.
All
Well, I'm
right.
glad. I'm glad that we were able to connect and do this. Mhm.
All right. Well, Victoria says, thank you. We appreciate you being here, Victoria. And we're going to sign out for now. If you need anything, contact us. Have a great day, everyone.